Right. Good afternoon to you, and you're welcome to the program. I'm having a backroom wrangling with one of my guests, but this is Good Afternoon Ghana. My name is Ania Fompofu. So the topic on the table, of course, has to do with one of the very interesting issues in this country where we have probably, I'll say, half of the country supporting, half of the country against it. Everybody have their opinions about it, and everybody's opinion, I think, is positive, regardless of where you belong to. So it is the cannabis bill that was passed, in Parliament. That is the farms that we say we are going to grow them for industrial purposes. And the debate has actually started with the bill being passed. Those who are saying that, well, if the bill is passed, let's see how we can make sure that we strictly go by what if assented to it and it becomes law, what we are going to do, how we're going to make sure we prevent ourselves from abusing the opportunity we have as a country. So there are three people I'm doing this with this afternoon. I have Nana Kweku Ajiman, who is the president of Empire Association of Ghana. He's been an ardent campaigner for, I think, where we have been able to achieve as a country where we are with the cultivation of this. He's super excited about it. You have no idea how he's been pushing for this. Wanda Kuto is also a private legal practitioner. He's joined us to help us understand maybe the legalities involved in this. And also, Pinamana Pao is Executive Director for Mental Health Authority. They've also had a position. She will join us on this. Before I take a break, let me read a few things. So there was a ruling in court, and Parliament, touched on it a bit. This is from Ghana Web, and it was published on Tuesday, 11th of July, 2023. Topic says Supreme Court erred in its decision to cancel We Law, MPP MP. So the story reads, Member of Parliament for Asima King Central, Kwame Anyimedue has said that the Supreme Court of Ghana erred in its ruling that a section of the Narcotics Control Commission Act 2020, Act 1019, is unconstitutional. Speaking to Joy in News interview on July 10, 2023, Anyimedue, the chairman of the Parliamentary Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament, said that the reason the court gave for its judgment was not right. Now, he suggested that Supreme Court ruled the way it did because it does not understand the procedures of the House. And the Supreme Court argued that we did not discuss or debate the particular clause. And then the Supreme Court also expunged it from the law. And I don't think the Supreme Court was right in saying that we did not debate it adequately. So in Parliament, we were making laws if there is no controversy about the particular bill or clause. We don't debate it. Most of the times, we don't say anything. We read the head notes of the clause, and then if any person has anything to say, add or subtract from the proposal, then the person says, and we proceed. Then, following through, we had what we call the passage of the bill. And so let me try and also read that briefly before I take my break. And it says that Parliament passes NACOC bill granting license for cannabis cultivation. Parliament has passed the Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023, bringing significant changes to the cultivation of cannabis for the industrial and medicinal purposes. The amended bill grants the Ministry of Interior and the authority to issue license for the cultivation of cannabis, thereby enabling the utilization of this plant for various beneficial applications. Let me end here, take a quick breather. I'll be back shortly with the guests. All right, you're welcome back. So Nana Kweku Ajiman is with me already, the president of Empire. Nana, you're welcome. Thank you.
Shani.
Well, you have a lot of people joining the association now.
Long time. Yeah. Oh, they've been continually joining. It's non-stop.
So what's your number strength?
No, we don't discuss numbers.
You don't discuss it?
No, we don't.
You don't want us to know how big you are?
No. Right. It's big enough. It's big enough to have caused this change, isn't it?
So Wanda Kuto, who is also a private legal practitioner, with me. Wanda, you're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Right, and later we'll have Pinamana Pearl, who also joined us she's actually the executive director for the Mental Health Authority. So Nana, quickly, I haven't spoken with you after the bill was passed. Really,
You haven't spoken with me for months.
I'm talking in relation to this.
Me too.
All right. Let's talk about cannabis. But firstly, you were talking to me about something. I want clarity on it.
No,
on the pictures of cannabis. Yes.
Yeah. I was just saying that most media houses, you have the discussion on industrial cannabis, industrial hemp, but you show recreational cannabis. And I was saying to you, I hope that you weren't going to do that today. And then you also show cannabis that has been rolled into a joint and it's laying on a table and
for smoking.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with what we're talking about. And this is one of the biggest problems. The media is confusing the public about what is on the actual table, and it's disturbing because
this is important. I deem it really, really important. So let me just make it clear. So before we started, he was trying to tell me that I shouldn't put up any picture which represents marijuana and not necessarily cannabis, the industrial cannabis we're talking about. And I didn't really understand. So I'm trying to let him explain so we know because I've done it before, really. Other media houses have done it before. But they are the experts and they can tell us what exactly they mean by telling us there's something different between industrial cannabis and so explain.
Yeah. So the industrial cannabis grows to about 16 feet tall. It's a slender plant with a thick stalk. So, and it has THC content of 0.3. Now, the recreational cannabis grows to about 7 feet tall. And it's very wide and bushy, and it carries buds. Now, these buds are what are picked and dried and smoked, or cooked, or turned into toffees or sweets, etc., etc., etc. For the industrial cannabis,
that's a recreational.
That's recreational side. On the other side, this tall, slender plant that I'm talking to you about, which is a cousin, if you like, because it's still called cannabis. It has buds, but those buds contain seed. When you take the buds that have seeds.
So this picture I showed you on my phone.
I can't tell. It's too far away.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
So it gives me it's actually an artist's impression of it, and it gives me the seeds part. It gives me the stem. It gives me the inflorescence and leaves, and it gives me roots.
Yeah, but what does it say it is?
Industrial cannabis.
I can't tell unless I see it close up before I agree with it. But I'm just saying that it's very important that the media houses make the distinction because it confuses people. And although we're saying we're talking about industrial and medicinal use, then when you see, spliffs lying on a table surrounded by other bits and bobs of weed and paraphernalia, then people think, no, it's not industrial, it's recreational. So that's why I was hoping you didn't have any pictures that you would show in the background today, because guaranteed it's going to be recreational cannabis.
So far, so good. I haven't showed any picture yet, but
I'm happy about that.
If we do, it's probably going to be recreational, as you say, and I'll indicate that that's recreational cannabis. So, lawyer, do you appreciate where he's coming from? Because even with the bill, the explanation to the bill has clearly indicated that we're using it for industrial purposes. Anyone caught using it for recreational purposes will find themselves at the wrong side of the law. So even those who are dealing with the law or the bill probably do not even know the difference.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to our viewers. Good afternoon to our senior Nana Jemine.
But before that, let me find out from Nana, is it possible we can use the industrial cannabis
For recreation?
For recreational purposes?
No.
It's not possible?
No.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You note that most people who are jubilating about the passage of the bill are jubilating with the view that, oh, now they can all smoke weed. That is the truth. They do not appreciate what the bill was about, or what now law what is about. So it's important that Senior Najimine and his organization do a lot of education so that people get to know the purpose of the bill. In fact, some sought to compare the Supreme Court ruling vis-a-vis the passage of the new bill into law. What the Supreme Court ruled on has to do with technicalities and not on merit or demerit of the usage of cannabis. I think that it's important to state this in clear terms. If you look at the ruling of the Supreme Court, in fact, it is clear that Parliament, by virtue of Article 93(2), is empowered. Parliament has been empowered with the legislative powers to make laws for this country. However, such powers are not exercised arbitrarily. There are constitutional limitations, there are substantive limitations to the exercise of parliamentary legislative powers. And if you look at Article 106(2), for example, it says that before a bill is passed into law, in laying the bill before Parliament, the memorandum that's accompanying the bill should set out in detail: 1, the policy change, the defects in the existing law, and the necessity to introduce a law, and in this context, to license the cultivation of cannabis. Is there in Article 106, I have the Constitution with me, Article 106(2). So what the Supreme Court sought to do was that Parliament, in passing Section 43 of Act 1019, did not comply with Article 106(2)(a). Consequently, that provision, Section 43, was declared null and void and of no effect. That was the extent of the Supreme Court's ruling. The Supreme Court never came out and said cannabis is not good, it's bad. No.
So the Article 106(2)(a) actually says that no bill other than such bill as in referred to in paragraph A of the Article 108 of the Constitution shall be introduced in Parliament unless A, it is accompanied by an explanatory memorandum setting out in detail the policy and principles of the bill, defect of the existing law, the remedies proposed to deal with those defects, and the necessity of its introduction.
That's right.
And then B continues.
Exactly. And the Supreme Court also took judicial notice of the fact that Parliament did not even discuss the bill. And so, yes, Parliament has the powers to pass law, but they cannot act arbitrarily. They must follow certain procedures. And these are procedural limits and substantive limits when we talk about the principle of constitutionalism. So the Supreme Court did what was right under the law. Parliament has gone back to do what they're supposed to do in accordance with the Constitution that binds all of us. So once that has been done, I think we only have to educate beneficiaries, players in the industry, as to what the bill or now the law encompasses. So, for example, I understand that it's for what? Industrial and medicinal purposes. This has to be made clear. But the notion out there is, oh, now Parliament has passed it. We cannot do this, we cannot do that. But with Sinanana Ajimai and his people, some of us are convinced that very soon those who are actively within the remit of cannabis and we will know the extent to which they can go. Thank you.
Dana, so where do we stand? I think the beginning of the discussion has even shifted my mind.
Well, bring it back, Annie. Bring it back.
No. I'm just trying to say that it shifted my mind from just a bill of cannabis that's been passed to now we even need to be careful of what type of cannabis we're talking about, because you have also made it clear that the industrial cannabis is very different from the recreational cannabis. So for now, anybody found growing recreational cannabis must be in trouble.
Of course, it's illegal. You see, the footnote to that section 43, it expressly says that this section or this law does not include the cultivation of cannabis for recreational use. That's the last line of that section 43. So it's quite clear that recreational cannabis remains unlawful.
Unlawful. So, but do we think that the Parliament House really knows? Because when we talk about recreational cannabis, we're not talking about, I don't think they even mean those who are growing it. They mean how it's used.
No, they also mean those who are growing it.
They also mean those.
Yeah, because it's illegal to cultivate. That's what the last line of section 43 indicates. That with this law does not give you the permission to cultivate cannabis for recreational use. So it also includes them. If you cultivate, it's illegal. You could be arrested and you could also be prosecuted.
Okay. So now let's get into the debate of those who disagree with this bill.
What, you mean the smokers?
No. Those who think that...
They are the smokers, dear.
Pardon?
They're the users. The ones who disagree, they're also the users.
Why?
They're the biggest users.
Why?
And I say that because Ghana is ranked third in Africa for cultivation and consumption of cannabis. Then if you look at the demographics, yes, third, behind Nigeria and South Africa.
For cultivating?
And consumption of cannabis, recreational cannabis.
Consumption in terms of what, smoking or tea?
Smoking, tea, dinner, whatever, toffees, blah, blah, blah. We're third out of 54 countries. Now, what I want to say to you is that you look at the population, 80% are Christians, 15%, let's say, are Muslims, and the other 5% is everybody else rolled in the bag. So if 15%, for example, were cultivating and consuming cannabis, we wouldn't be third in Africa. And if 5% were cultivating and consuming cannabis, we wouldn't be third in Africa. But if 80%, or the majority of 80%, were the cultivators and the consumers, then yes, we would be third in Africa. So many of those dissenting voices, public dissenting voices, are the same people who, when they go home after a hard day's work, go into the back and relax and stretch themselves out and have a spliff.
But is that to say that they are the ones who are, against this bill? Why would they be against it anyway?
Well, it's the religious lobby that have really caused the biggest challenge when it comes to pushing this through, because they want to come and talk about morals and stuff like that, and as I say, at the same time, simultaneously, they're also participating. That's why I say that. Because they form the vast majority in this country. And I can remember specifically back in 2020 when we were discussing around the table in the Parliamentary Select Committee, there was issues of, because we were asking for full legalization, and we were told bluntly that we couldn't have full legalization because it was an election year. And as it being an election year, the religious lobby could cause a lot of problems. Nobody wanted to lose any votes. And that's why we ended up with hemp on the table.
So, what do you make of, you are making a point, but I'm not sure if I can be definite about those who are against it are the ones who are really smoking it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the fight in your world.
No problem. It's been said on your platform, so the viewers have heard. That's good enough for me.
Okay. How about the question of whether or not we say it's a necessary it's a necessary evil? Are you comfortable with the term when people say, well, it's a necessary evil because we already know where we are as a country and laws are made, yes, all the time, and we know how we have been a very difficult country in terms of laws and its implementation?
Well, no, I wouldn't agree with that because if you compare alcohol with recreational cannabis, alcohol has taken much more lives than cannabis ever will. In fact, I don't know of anyone who's died because of the use of cannabis. See, I don't know of it. And you see, the other crucial thing about it is that, you see, we come on platforms like this and we spend the time discussing recreational cannabis instead of looking at the benefits of industrial hemp. Because, whilst people are saying it's this and that on Bonsam Tower, they really want to talk about it. They really want to talk about it. They really want to know about it.
But that's not exactly what we're talking about.
And many of them do know about it and have the experience of it anyway. It is something that eventually we will have to have roundtable discussions like this with lots of different stakeholders, religious leaders, chiefs, politicians, lawyers, media personnel. We will have to have this discussion because in Parliament, for example, when the Honourable Ambrose Derry was making a presentation about it, he referred to countries that had legalized recreational cannabis, and he made reference to the huge amounts of money they had made via taxation. But it's not industrial hemp that has brought that huge amount around, it's recreational cannabis. So it still shows me that there's a little bit of confusion about what we're talking about. You talked about Canada, who we all know within a 4-year span made $40 billion from the sale of recreational cannabis, not industrial, from recreational cannabis. And other countries he mentioned, they've made huge amounts, not from industrial cannabis, but from recreational cannabis. So, as my friend has said, there's a lot to educate people about. There's a lot. But it's certainly not an evil. I mean, alcohol is more an evil.
How are countries making money from recreational cannabis?
Because people are smoking. People are putting it in cakes. People are cooking with it. They're making toffees. They're doing smoothies. They're all kinds of things. So
it's legal in those countries?
Yes.
In terms of, regarding recreational?
Yes, it's legal. But you can only buy it from dispensaries. And this is a part of the regulations that come into play. It's regulations that we could introduce as well. You can't, if you buy it from someone off the street, it's illegal. But you can go into a dispensary, and many of Ghanaians, we love traveling. So many of them have already experienced walking into dispensaries as big as your studio, and they just see different variations of cannabis on the shelves. Different names, different colors, and all that. And you can just pick and choose and refuse. And it's safe. This is the essence of it. It is safe to go into a dispensary and buy. And even the doctor will give you a prescription for whatever ailment it is that needs to be treated by cannabis. And you will also enter the dispensary with your prescription and get the appropriate recreational or medicinal cannabis for your ailment. So they've progressed the thing far and way beyond.
I like the word they've progressed, Nana. We know we haven't progressed as a country. In fact, I dare say we retrogress almost on a daily basis.
Well, we do, but this is progress. This bill is progress. It's a little step. And I do appreciate it. And I doff my hats to the members of Parliament and also to NACOC, who I normally fight with, because I think they've done pretty well in pushing this through within a week. It's like within 24 hours, they've had 3 readings and a consideration and pushed the bill through. And now we're almost at a point where we're ready to apply for licenses. So I give them my respect for doing that, because prior to that, they'd basically procrastinated for 3 years. Because remember, the bill was passed in March 2020. we're now in 2023 and we've gone beyond March. That's 3 years.
Lawyer, let me find out. You are the lawyer. The difficulty in implementing laws. I mean, in comparing us to other countries, clearly we know that these countries have progressed, as he used the word, and when it comes to law implementation, so it scares a bit. I remember we had some vox pops we played where Ghanaians were sharing their opinions, and some were against the fact that they were, as a country, we were not consulted before this bill was passed. Well, if they have to consult us, I'm not sure how they will do the consultations, but it's quite a controversial bill to deal with. And so having a bit of communication with Ghanaians would have been fair, I think, would have been fair, because it's a very serious issue. We're talking about our health, about making money, and making sure that we're progressing with that, a policy of that nature and not retrogress.
Yeah, thank you very much. Normally, in passing law, there are extensive meetings that are held that we call stakeholders meeting or consultative meetings. It may take a form of town hall meetings, seminars, and all of that. And at this point, I will not be talking about whether or not we is a good substance. I will not talk about that. I will just look at the legal framework and how things should be done going forward as far as all aspects of it is concerned. I have also taken note of some submission by some members of parliament that foreign investors are ready to partner Ghanaians to grow the weed. If this proposition is true, then it's an indication that our foreign exchange, it will have a bearing on our foreign exchange, particularly so when under the current dispensation, this is not a political program, but the fact is that the inflation rate, the exchange rate is terrible. So if you have foreign investors coming in to cultivate weed, and they will also be able to export a product out of Ghana, then it may positively affect our exchange rate, and the CD may become strong. So on that score, one may have a soft spot for the growing discussion as to broadening it. Of course, we cannot just follow money. We must also look at the health concerns, if any, that are associated with the uses of weed, which is why I have said that I don't want to go into the merit of the usage. It's a very dicey topic.
Yeah, but are we sure of its implementation, strict implementation of it? As we speak, I dare say that there are people who are growing recreational weed in Ghana.
And
I am sure
that's illegal.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that some were busted quite recently from Hohoi, and the MP, Honorable Pitambewu, had to intervene and all of that. We had all those stuff, but it's unfortunate. The point is that we should all stick by the law. If we as a people we decide that it should be passed, then it should be passed. One point I want to make clear is that members of parliament do not represent themselves. They represent their constituents, a group of people. So whether or not it is a good bill, we must also tax the MPs to do their job by seeking the views of their constituents.
Because it scares me where we have the law clearly stating that recreational weed is illegal. We have people who are not just smoking, but they're growing it.
Yeah.
They're actually growing it. And farms are farms. They are not like they're in people's bedrooms.
That's right.
And even that, we have not been able to control it. How sure are you that industrial weed, we can... Because it looks like, I almost feel people will just misinterpret, like you're saying. The moment this bill was passed, people started thinking, oh, now we can smoke weed. We can smoke weed. And like joke, people will actually take advantage of it and abuse the situation.
Yeah, but that is the worry. That is where the problem is. If we go on this tangent, then we are coming from a biased point of view that we is bad. If you say that the law does not permit that, that is a good argument. But if you go on this tangent, they suggest that weed is not a good substance, which is why I said there should be broader education. What do we want as people? Should we restrict weed to medicinal and industrial usage only, or is it right for people who want to take it for recreational purposes to also take it? I believe this is where we will need the likes of Nanajima to educate us the benefits. And I've picked some points so far that is part of our daily usage, toffees and all of that.
Well, one of the Ghanaian guys we spoke with on the street, he said, well, he was not even well at some point, and someone recommended a form of a tea for him to take, and he had it, and he was well. So he is even happy with the bill, you know. So clearly, this person was using recreational weed, not industrial weed.
Well, industrial still has medicinal properties.
Yes, but you said, I asked you specifically if we can use the industrial cannabis for recreational purposes. You said no.
No, but we're now talking about medicinal. You're saying somebody drank tea and he was well. Mm-hmm. That's not recreational. There was something wrong with him, and he took the tea and he is well.
So can a person smoke it?
That's medicinal.
Can the same person smoke it?
No, you won't smoke it.
You can't smoke it.
You can if you like. You can smoke a piece of paper if you
So
like.
even industrial weed can be smoked.
But it won't do anything for you. So anybody who wants to smoke weed, they're smoking it because they want to get high, so to speak.
I want this clarity,
Yeah.
Anna.
Now I'm clarifying it for you.
The industrial weed, I asked you, can we use it for recreational purposes? What are these recreational purposes?
There's only one main recreational purpose.
Smoke it.
Smoking.
Or,
right?
Well, drink can be recreational.
Well, can be.
Yeah, so smoke it or drink it.
Yeah.
Can we use industrial cannabis for these two?
If you're crazy, yes. For smoking. If you're crazy, you will. But if you're of sound mind, you won't. Because the whole thing about smoking cannabis is it contains a compound called THC.
Yeah.
Right? And if you smoke industrial cannabis with THC of 0.3, nothing is going to happen. So no one is going to smoke it. No one is going to smoke it because it wouldn't meet the purpose. The purpose of smoking cannabis is to feel elated.
Yeah, but
if you smoke industrial cannabis, you will not get that feeling because that psychoactive compound, THC, is 0.3. It's nothing. It's nothing. Do you understand? So you must, if you want to feel elated, you must now turn to recreational cannabis, which has a THC level of up to about 25%. Then you will feel elated. So no one's going to turn around and smoke industrial hemp.
For the industrial one, the THC is
0.3.
Yeah, which is what we're not supposed to go above.
Yes. It's nothing. Look, let me give you another example. You have wine. You've got some wine, 5% volume, 7%, 10%, 12%. Then on the other hand, you have some wine, there's no volumes, carries no volumes at all. Now, when you drink 12% volume, you will feel whatever you feel. I can't express that one. Yeah? But I drink wine that's 0% volume. It means whatever psychoactive content within there is non-existent. So I can drink the whole bottle and it's like I'm drinking a can of Coke. But you drink a whole bottle of wine and you will behave differently.
Okay.
Because it has, psychoactively, it has done something. It's mind altering, they call it. It's the same thing with industrial hemp. Industrial hemp is that wine that has 0% volume. And recreational cannabis is that wine that has 12% volume. So they're completely not the same. And this issue about people abusing it and taking advantage of the cultivation is not possible. Because if you cultivate recreational cannabis within a 50-mile radius of industrial cannabis, the industrial cannabis would cross-pollinate your recreational cannabis and render it useless.
Can you come again on that?
Yeah, I can. I'm saying, if you cultivate recreational cannabis within a 50-mile radius of industrial cannabis, the industrial cannabis, the pollen from the industrial cannabis will cross-pollinate the recreational cannabis and render it absolutely useless.
After it cross-pollinates?
Yes, it will spoil the crop.
Oh, really?
Yes, it will spoil the crop. So nobody can grow a crop here, because I know that perhaps people will grow tomatoes and then they grow cannabis inside. So you can walk all the way around, you'll see tomatoes, but when you go deep, you'll see the recreational cannabis. It's not the same thing that you can do if you're cultivating industrial cannabis. Because once that industrial cannabis is there and you put recreational cannabis in the middle or in between or wherever, within 50 miles, it's useless. And I've tried to enlighten the Narcotics Control Commission when they express this fear, that look, having this law so that we can cultivate industrial hemp is one of the greatest things that is going to reduce the level of recreational cannabis that is currently cultivated in this country.
Are you sure it will reduce?
Yes, of course. Because
well, we can have people take advantage of it and say,
oh,
we're all growing industrial cannabis.
They have to go into greenhouses. They cannot grow outside. It'll be cross-pollinated.
But the recreational cannabis that are being grown now are not in greenhouses.
No, they're not. And industrial cannabis will not be grown in greenhouses. So northwest, east or south, 50 miles, wherever the wind blows, whatever is in its reach will be cross-pollinated and will be rendered useless.
But the possibility is a 50-50. I mean, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to cross-pollinate everywhere, anytime. I mean, that's what, if it flies around and gets any, pod and it will pollinate, fine. But if it doesn't mean all recreational cannabis is going to be destroyed.
But it's going to be more often than not, isn't it? Because do you know where the cannabis is being grown illegally at the moment? Do you know?
I know, I can't say.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where hemp is going to be grown.
You're still watching Good Afternoon Ghana, so it has to do with Parliament legalizing weed cultivation, and we're talking specifically about the industrial cannabis. Let's take a breather. We'll be back shortly to wrap up. All right, you're welcome back to Good Afternoon Ghana. We're wrapping up pretty shortly. I still have Nana Kwekwajima with me, and also Victor Kuto also with me, a legal practitioner. I'm not able to successfully get through to Pinaman Pao, but I'm sure another time we'll do that. Let me come to lawyer. Lawyer, what do you make of some of the things he said?
Oh, very sound arguments. I mean, we can only encourage them. I'm particularly interested in the business aspect, where foreign investors will be able to partner local businessmen to kind of raise some efforts into the country.
But you're not interested in the legal implementation of what we're dealing with?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. And I mean, to a large extent, because as we speak now, Ghana, even toothpick, we import. We import everything. I understand now we import tomatoes from Burkina and Togo.
Yeah, and Yamade.
Yes, we import Yamade as well. We're importing everything. So if it is cannabis that will give us the foreign exchange, at least under this government, let's try and do it quickly. When they leave.
Lawyer, you're making me laugh. Will you do it quickly?
When the NPP government leaves and then they come with more pragmatic policies, then we'll look at all this. But essentially, we've discussed the Supreme Court ruling vis-a-vis the whole issue about we and all of that. The Supreme Court never talked about whether or not it's good or not. The Supreme Court only talked about how Parliament, in exercising their legislative powers, whether or not they followed the procedures outlined in Article 106(2)(a). And I think that this is clear. As to, again, we must caution users of we otherwise known as cannabis, that the passage of the law has to do with medicinal and industrial usage. It is not connected to what? Recreational usage. It's important that we stress this. I'm reliably informed that the other organizations, including that of Mr. Nanajima,
Empire,
yes, who are pushing that eventually the recreational usage will be passed. But as it stands now, it has not been passed. It is not law. So it's important that they are careful. They should confine themselves to what the law says, which is that it should be used for medicinal and industrial usage only. If it turns out that in future the people's representative, the Parliament of Ghana, decide to pass it for recreational use, so be it. So be it. But as it stands now, we are not there yet. So let us move within the remit of the law. Thank you.
Well, I agree with that. That's all I've been advocating. Let's move within the remit of the law. 100%. 100%.
We're not going to have recreational soon.
No, I don't know about that. I'm not a soothsayer. As the lawyer has said.
Are you going to push for that?
As the lawyer has said, if Parliament turn round and say that this is what they're arguing for now and we should introduce it, so be it. I'm not a parliamentarian. I'm just an advocate. And at the moment, I've been one of the people who've been advocating for this, and that's fine where it is. Now we've got to look at other things, how we manage it, how we regulate it. Do you understand? And those are the key things, because you raise concerns about people abusing it, and I try to show you reasons why it won't be abused, but at the same time, and it can't be abused, but at the same time, we need to have the framework there to ensure on the ground that it's not abused. And I think it won't be.
Someone says, good afternoon, Annie. I don't think that the introduction of cannabis as a commercial crop in Ghana should be seen as a necessary evil. We already have cash crops in this country and have the potential to generate huge foreign exchange. And instead of paying attention to the value chains of those crops in order to yield the needed maximum incomes, we're rather thinking of introducing something that has a potential to open the floodgates of people to indulge in smoking habits that can exacerbate our already precarious health systems. The system for control are simply inadequate, and so we shouldn't be swayed by the anticipated revenues, but we should rather sit down with the industry sector experts and be better and have better consideration. Some from East Legon sent this, and that has been my, concern as well. And I think we also wanted the Executive Director of Mental Health Authority to also come on board to explain to us what their position have been on this situation. Pinaman Apau, but unfortunately we couldn't get her. Wanda Victor Kuto, a private legal practitioner, joined us in the studio, and also Nana Kwekwajiman, also president of Hemp Power Association of Ghana, also joined us in the studio. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Our time is up. We're grateful. All right. So thank you for watching. My name is Ania Fompo. Thanks for watching. Good afternoon and have a good weekend.